Hello and welcome to the Doctoral College vlog series. This is in conversation with the Doctoral College. I'm Deborah Curitan, I'm the Research Development Manager from the University of Wolverhampton.
And I'm Ben Hannigan, I'm Director of the Doctoral College.
Today's vlog we're going to look at post-Viva outcomes, how you deal with the outcome you have at the end of your Viva voice, or Viva voice, is it?
Well, Viva voce, Viva voce, different.
I don't know. whatever you want to call it. What happens at the end of your Viva is you're given one of several outcomes, and we're going to look at those outcomes and how to work with your supervisors to deliver your corrections and get your doctorate. So Ben,
let me quickly outline the general outcomes that we have in the university sector in the UK.
Yeah.
There are several outcomes that can occur, and they are number one, you can pass there and then, and you go in the room, do the Viva, and you come out a doctor. So there's an immediate award. Sometimes there can be a little bit of just change this paragraph, just add this table, but something that can take you half an hour. So that's the best outcome. The second outcome could be minor levels of corrections. Typically 12 weeks, 3 months are sort of given. If there's a holiday in that period, they may give just a little bit more. So typically minor corrections, which are then checked only by the internal examiner. So again, you should be very happy. If 3 months are given, it doesn't mean 3 months are needed. It could just be 4 or 5 days, but it's not an immediate award. A few things need to be sorted out. So again, you should be super happy about that. The third, which some universities have in a minority, is maybe a 6-month correction period. So you're talking about something that's going to need more than 3 months, but maybe just 4 or 5 months. Not necessarily something that's too terrible, but some stuff needs to be done. Maybe a new chapter needs to be written, that kind of thing. Then you may have as well a resubmission, which is when you're given 12 months. Which I suppose in a way you could say is a fail, because you need to resubmit the work, possibly even have another Viva after you've resubmitted it. It's a fail, but then you'll get a lot of feedback, probably a lot of encouragement. They wouldn't give it to you unless they thought after 12 months you're going to pass or be in a good position to pass. So it's a chance to get the useful feedback and make the corrections and improve the thesis. Then I suppose beyond that, you might have a fail and an award of an MPhil, so you're given a lower research degree award. Often students are very happy about that because they come out with yet another research degree to add to their CV, but the pain of perhaps what's been a difficult PhD experience is over. Beyond that, you have perhaps an outright fail. Typically, in these latter two categories, examiners are not absolute, so they may give you a resubmission, and then after the resubmission, after 12 months, if the work still isn't of PhD quality, they may then move further down the line. So that's the array of outcomes that happens across the sector. What about here in Wolverhampton?
Wolverhampton, we have the pass outright. I think in the past 12 years we've had 5 cases of that. So it is very, very rare. So if you don't pass outright, it's not a bad outcome. We have minor modifications, which is a really good outcome. You have 3 months, 12 weeks to make the corrections. We don't extend that if there's a holiday. It is 3 months, 12 weeks. We then move into the resubmission, and this is where you and I disagree about how you classify a resubmission. I don't call a resubmission a fail because we don't have a major modifications category at Wolverhampton, so it's effectively this is the major modifications.
And we do call it resubmission, we don't call it a fail.
We don't call it a fail, it's called a resubmission. So you have 12 months in which to make your corrections, and then you may or may not be asked to do a second Viva. Now you'll know that at the point of the Viva voice, the first Viva voice, whether or not you're going to be invited back. But if you are told that you're invited back, you're then only asked questions about the corrections that you've made. So
they can't get you back for a second time. and say, oh, and by the way, we didn't mention it before, but we thought chapter 10 was rubbish as well, so go and do that. They're just checking you against the corrections they gave you from the first Viva.
Yeah. And then beyond that, we have the resubmission for MPhil and fail. So the resubmissions for MPhil and fail, again, are incredibly rare. I think there's only been a handful of those over the last 12 years. And I say 12 years, we've been doing doctorates a lot longer than 12 years. It's just that 12 years is a data set that we have at hand that we've been analysing over the last few years. So there are a number of outcomes. As Ben said, we don't have a minimum time for your corrections. If you're given 12 weeks, it can take, it takes you as long as it takes you, as long as it's not over the 12 weeks. So that might be 12 hours, 12 days, a couple of weeks, it might be 2 months. But as soon as you finish those corrections and you and your supervisors are happy with them, you make that, you submit them for re-examination. So with minor modifications, that's with the internal examiner usually. Sometimes the external examiner might want to see them. It's rare, but sometimes they're very interested in the doctorate anyway and would like to see the thesis again. Then with a resubmission, both examiners will look at the corrections when they come in. And again, as with the minor modifications, once you've completed those corrections, you put them in. So that could be 6 months, that could be 4 months, it could be 8 months. But as soon as you've got them, try and get them done as quickly as you can. Try and get it out of the way, and then you can get on with the rest of your life.
Do you know, I do agree with that advice. I mean, sometimes people can be quite taken aback, quite frustrated that they've been given 12 months.
Yeah.
But in fact, as you say, it may not take that long. It may not take 12 months. And just getting on with it means that, within a few months you could be awarded your PhD. The only, I guess, other scenario I'd mention is that sometimes, if you feel quite deflated, you've worked hard, you've submitted the PhD, you've had a tough Viva, you're given 12 months, it may be good to step away for a little bit, go on holiday, go and do something else for a month or two. Because when you go back to the work, you may be a bit more pragmatic.
Yeah.
And you're not feeling, well, I strongly disagree with the examiners, but you're thinking to yourself, what do I need to do to satisfy these corrections, to get it passed, and to get me awarded? And that's quite a good frame of mind in terms of doing corrections.
I would say a couple of weeks, not a couple of months. That, me personally, because I think a couple of weeks gives you a little bit of time to kind of calm down, kind of lick your wounds, and then consolidate and reflect on the Viva. I think if you leave it a couple of months, it starts to get a bit woolly about what was said and what questions that were asked. And I think this brings us to another point. You can have at the University of Wolverhampton your supervisor in the Viva with you. That's totally up to you. You don't have to. It's not expected, but it's not unexpected to have a supervisor there. And sometimes having the supervisor there is really useful for the correction phase because they've heard the conversations, they've heard what you've said in the Viva, they've heard the feedback that the examiners have given you, and that helps locate them within the corrections. So when you are doing the corrections, they know what conversations was had around that particular correction. They often make notes on your thesis for you as well. So I think that is a really important aspect of corrections, is working with your supervisors, and if you're confident enough to have them with you or happy enough to have them with you in the room, that is a useful role that having them in the room plays.
And you will get all the feedback in a written form.
You will.
So during the Viva, you don't need to sit there making notes about what they're saying should be changed or improved or altered. You should just talk to them. You should know that you will get a form back that will give you chapter and verse in terms of what they're asking you to do in terms of corrections.
Now that brings me to another point actually. You get this form from the STAR office at the University of Wolverhampton, and you'll get it within 10 working days of the Viva. I always say to my PhD students, make your corrections in the same way as you would make corrections if you were writing a paper. So when your thesis goes back to your examiners, you should have that cover sheet with the corrections on, saying how you've what you've done to address that correction and where they can find it in the thesis. And that makes their job a lot easier when it comes to re-examining the thesis. If it is that you've only got a few corrections, they're going to go to those pages where the corrections have been made and read that chapter again or read that section again. If you don't tell them where they are, the corrections are, they're going to be sitting with a list of the corrections, your first version of your Viva and your second version of the Viva, doing this, trying to figure out what it is that you've done, where it is, how you've answered it, and it could well be that they send the thesis back to you because they don't feel that you've fully answered a question because you've answered, and often it will be that you not only answer a correction in one space, it might be in 3 or 4 different spaces. And if they can't find all of those areas where you've addressed it, they may not feel that you've responded fully to their questions. So make their job easier, and it actually makes your life easier as well. You know that they are seeing the hard work that you've put into those corrections fully.
So a very clear index. You asked me to include references to this book. Please now find them on these pages. Okay.
Yeah. And work with your supervisors. A lot of students seem to think that that they're on their own at this point, and they're not. Your supervisors are there still supervising you. They can't tell you how to write the corrections. That comes down to you. You need to do that work. By the point post-Viva, you're an independent researcher. So we would be expecting you to take a lead on that. We'll read your corrections. We'll give you feedback and say, well, I don't feel that you've answered that fully. You've answered part of that question, but not all of it. Maybe you need to go away and look at this area and see what else you can add to that. But we won't be sitting there telling you how to do your corrections. We will work with you to help you with those corrections, help ensure that you fully answer those corrections. We'll be there as a sounding box. We'll be there as a sounding board, isn't it? Not a sounding block. We'll be there as a sounding board. You can bounce ideas off us. You can debate things with us. We'll try and help keep you on time, but we won't answer those questions for you. What we can do though is if we haven't been in the Viva with you, and there's a correction that you don't understand and we don't understand, we can go back to the examiners on your behalf and ask for a clarification at that point. What we don't suggest is the student does that because it muddies the water.
Because sometimes there's some ambiguity, isn't there?
Yeah.
Or the corrections may be done, but you're still not sure if it fully answers. So you can say to your supervisor, could you check with the internal examiner that this satisfies the advice that was given?
Well, we can go back as supervisors and ask for clarification. Not necessarily is this because that's a bit like putting your hand up in the exam, saying, excuse me, will you give me the answer? So we can go back and ask for a clarification about what that point was about and the areas that they were looking for you to explore, and then we can come back and look at your answer to see whether or not it matches what it is that they were expecting you to explore in that. Okay.
So there we are.
So any other tips that you would give?
Only I think that you need to keep your eyes on the end point.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself be thrown by some bit of feedback or requested correction that you disagree with. It may be smarter just to do it, just to complete the process to be awarded a PhD, because the work remains yours. If you're thinking of getting it published afterwards, you can remove whatever you want from it that the examiners have asked you to put into it. So I would be pragmatic, I would press on, I would think to yourself, the goal here is not to prove that you know more than the examiners, it's to have a PhD that is of PhD quality and that can be awarded.
Thank you. So that's this blog coming to an end, so thank you for listening. Watch out for further vlogs that we will be doing in this series. I think we have a few lined up around annual progress review and responding to conference calls. So keep your eyes peeled for more vlogs from us. Bye.